The surgical lights burned white-hot above Sarah Mitchell's face. Cold air whispered across her skin. Metal instruments clinked against steel trays. She couldn't see the wound, only the reflection of Dr. Montgomery's eyes in the overhead lamp, narrowed in concentration. "I've got it," the doctor said, voice tight. The forceps pulled. Sarah felt something deep inside resist, like roots tearing from soil. Her fingers gripped the armrests until her knuckles blanched. "It's holding on to crust," Thompson murmured. Another pull, harder this time. The sensation traveled through her jawbone, intimate and wrong. Then release. A wet sound, movement in the specimen cup. The nurse gasped. "Oh my God." What they pulled from beneath Sarah's skin wasn't supposed to be alive. But 6 weeks earlier, standing in her Denver bathroom on a Monday morning, she'd thought it was just a pimple. By then, it had already been living inside her for 42 days. Leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments along with the city you're watching from. Now, let's continue with the story. Sarah Mitchell's life existed in a state of controlled chaos. At 28, she'd carved out a corner desk at Tech Vista, a Denver startup, where Slack notifications pinged past midnight, and hustle culture wasn't just a phrase, it was religion. Her workspace told the story: 2 monitors glowing with spreadsheets, 7 coffee mugs bearing lipstick stains she hadn't bothered to wash, a Peloton membership card buried under takeout receipts. The biggest client presentation of her career loomed 3 days away. A $2 million contract hung in the balance. Her studio apartment in Capitol Hill reflected the same frantic energy. Meal prep containers sat empty in the fridge. The Peloton bike gathered dust. Her gym bag had lived in her car's trunk, untouched, for 3 weeks. On her nightstand, an Ambien prescription bottle stood half empty. The refill date 2 weeks overdue. Michael Brennan had been patient. 14 months of dating a woman who canceled dinners for conference calls, who fell asleep during movies, who answered emails during their weekend hikes. He was steady, a software engineer with reasonable hours and unreasonable optimism about their future. But lately, even his patience showed cracks. The bathroom mirror had become Sarah's confessional. Dark circles bloomed beneath her eyes, despite the Maybelline concealer she applied in thick layers each morning. Her reflection looked tired, looked stretched, looked like someone running on fumes and caffeine, and the belief that rest was for people who hadn't just gotten promoted 2 months earlier. She'd been someone else entirely, someone standing on a beach in Belize, barefoot in the sand, holding champagne she didn't want to drink, Jennifer Patterson's destination wedding. 4 days of mandatory joy on Ambergris Caye. At a boutique resort Jennifer had chosen because it cost half the price of the alternatives. Sarah had been maid of honor, a title that felt more like obligation than honor. The flight, hotel, and lavender bridesmaid dress had cost $1,800 she'd put on a credit card. The debt had still sat there, accruing interest. She remembered the mosquito bite. It had happened during the beach ceremony, a quick sting on her right cheek. She'd swatted, felt the tiny corpse between her fingers, and thought nothing of it. Just a bug, just Belize. She'd taken an antihistamine and forgotten about it by dinner. Now, 8 weeks later, that moment felt like prehistory. Monday morning arrived with its usual violence. The alarm shrieked at 6:30. Sarah hit snooze twice, before dragging herself to the shower. Lukewarm water, 8 minutes. Yesterday's coffee grounds, reheated in the microwave. She stood before the bathroom mirror at 7:15, foundation brush in hand, already late. That's when she saw it. A small raised bump on her right cheek, 2 inches from her nose, pink around the edges, smaller than a pencil eraser. She touched it, firm, slightly warm. "Great," she muttered. "Perfect timing." Sarah's fingers hovered over the bump, not quite touching. The texture felt different from normal skin, denser, warmer. She leaned closer to the mirror, studying it under the harsh fluorescent light. The bump sat raised and proud, a tiny hill of inflamed tissue. Her mind catalogued possibilities. Hormonal acne. Her period was due in 5 days. Stress breakout. She'd been sleeping 4 hours a night for 2 weeks. Maybe an allergic reaction to the new moisturizer she'd tried yesterday. She grabbed her phone and typed hormonal acne cheek area. WebMD loaded slowly. The results appeared cystic acne, stress-related breakouts, diet-induced inflammation. All the answers pointed to the same conclusion: overwork, poor sleep, too much caffeine. Her entire lifestyle summarized in a search result. "It's just stress," she said to her reflection. "I'll put something on it." Yeah, she rummaged through the medicine cabinet until she found the clean and clear spot treatment, dabbed it on, and watched the clear gel sink into her skin. A faint tingling sensation followed, but she dismissed it as the benzoyl peroxide working. Then came the concealer. Maybelline Fit Me in shade 220. Applied in careful layers until the bump disappeared beneath beige coverage. Extra powder to set it. She checked the mirror from 3 angles. "Can't even see it," she told herself. The eyeliner came next, then mascara. By 7:45, she was presentable, professional, ready to pitch a $2 million contract to clients who expected perfection. On her desk, visible in the mirror's reflection, sat a framed photo from Jennifer's wedding. Sarah, in the lavender dress, standing on white sand, palm trees swaying behind her. She looked happy in that moment. The camera had caught her mid-laugh. Champagne glass raised. What the photo didn't show was the mosquito that had landed on her cheek 30 seconds later. She grabbed her laptop bag and left the apartment. Tuesday evening arrived with team celebration drinks at the Rack House. The presentation had gone flawlessly. The client had sat down, but Sarah's boss had bought rounds of bourbon for everyone, clapping her on the shoulder and promising this would look great on her year-end review. Jen Adams, a co-worker from the design team, leaned across the bar. "Hey, what's on your cheek?" Sarah's hand flew to her face. "What? Right there. Looks like a bite or something." Sarah's fingers found the bump. It had grown noticeably. She could feel it without even pressing, the size of a small pea now, raised and hard. "Oh, yeah, just a pimple, no big deal." But Jen was still looking, her expression concerned. "You might want to get that checked out. It looks kind of angry." Sarah angled her face away from the light. Self-consciousness crept up her spine like cold fingers. She excused herself to the bathroom, locked herself in a stall, and opened her phone camera. The bathroom's yellow lighting made everything look worse. But there was no denying it. The bump had doubled in size since morning. The skin around it looked thicker now, puffy. When she pressed gently, The tissue felt rigid, like cartilage. Her phone buzzed. "Michael, dinner at my place." She typed back, "Rain check." Exhausted. She couldn't face him tonight. Couldn't sit across a table while he noticed what Jen had noticed, while he asked questions she didn't have answers for. At home. She stood before the bathroom mirror at 9:47. The bump commanded attention now. She couldn't ignore it anymore, couldn't chalk it up to stress or hormones or bad luck. Something was wrong. She touched it again. The surface felt hot beneath her fingertip, and there was that movement, a faint prickling sensation, like tiny needles pushing from the inside out. "No," she whispered. "That's not real. That's just nerves." She grabbed her phone and searched. Bump on face not going away. The results multiplied: sebaceous cyst, lipoma, swollen lymph node, insect bite reaction. She clicked through medical websites, comparing photos to her reflection. Nothing quite matched. The cysts in the images looked softer, more fluid. The lymph nodes appeared in different locations. The insect bite reactions showed spreading redness, but not this kind of centralized mass. She opened the medicine cabinet and found tea tree oil, her mother's solution to everything. Natural remedy, gentle. She dabbed it on with a cotton swab and felt immediate burning. Not the pleasant kind, sharp, acidic, wrong. She rinsed it off quickly, patting the area dry with a towel. In bed, she couldn't sleep. Every position pressed the bump against the pillow, sending little sparks of discomfort through her cheek. She lay on her left side, facing away from Michael's side of the bed, the side that remained empty tonight. At 2:47 in the morning, pain woke her, sharp, localized, radiating outward like a pulse. She stumbled to the bathroom and turned on the light. The skin moved, not her imagination this time. A subtle, rhythmic shifting beneath the surface, like something breathing. Sarah's breath fogged the bathroom mirror as she leaned closer. Her right cheek pulsed with visible rhythm, the skin rising and falling in tiny increments. She pressed her palm against the tile wall to steady herself. This couldn't be real. The fluorescent light hummed overhead, casting everything in clinical clarity. She touched the bump with trembling fingers. Beneath her fingertip, something shifted laterally. Not the movement of blood through vessels, not muscle spasm, something else, something discreet and intentional. Her phone showed 3:07 a.m. She typed with shaking hands, lump under skin moving. The search results cascaded down her screen: cysts, lipomas, abscesses, muscle twitches near blood vessels, medical forums full of people describing similar sensations. All of them told they were imagining things, that it was anxiety, that lumps don't move on their own. But this was moving. She took 2 Tylenol pen, crawled back to bed. Sleep refused to come. Every nerve in her face felt hyper-aware, reporting sensations she couldn't interpret. Pressure, heat, that persistent feeling of something shifting beneath her skin. Her phone lit up at 7 a.m. "Michael, you okay?" "You've been weird." She typed back, "Just work stress." The lie felt necessary. How could she explain this? How could she tell him she felt something living under her skin without sounding hysterical? Thursday afternoon crawled by in fractional increments. Sarah sat through a video conference at 2:30, her laptop camera angled to favor her left side. The itching had started an hour earlier. Deep, maddening, unreachable. Her fingernails found the bump repeatedly, scratching until a coworker sent a Slack message. "You okay? You keep touching your face." She excused herself and ran to the bathroom. The bump had grown again, dime size now. The surrounding skin blazed red and inflamed. At the center, a darkened area had appeared, not quite bruised, but discolored, deeper than the surface. She scratched at it and immediately regretted the action. The itch intensified, spreading outward in waves. Her hands gripped the sink edge. She needed help, real help, not Google, not tea tree oil, not denial. She opened the Kaiser Permanente app on her phone. Next telemedicine appointment 3 days out. She booked an in-person visit for tomorrow morning and felt marginal relief. Finally, she was doing something back at her desk. Jen Adams appeared beside her cubicle. "Sarah, that looks infected. You should see someone today." "I have an appointment tomorrow." "Today? Urgent care. I'll cover your 4 p.m. meeting." Sarah opened her mouth to protest, but Jen's expression stopped her. Concern, real concern, the kind that made arguing feel petty. "Okay," Sarah said quietly. "But you're right." Friday morning arrived with throbbing pain that pulled her from sleep at 6 a.m. She touched her face and felt heat radiating from the bump. It had grown overnight nickel-sized now. The skin stretched taut and shiny. She took her temperature, 99.8, low-grade fever. The afternoon appointment suddenly felt impossibly far away. She dressed quickly and drove to Concentra Urgent Care on Colfax. The parking lot was empty at 7:15. She sat in her car, watching the locked doors, checking her reflection in the rearview mirror every 30 seconds. The bump pulsed visibly now. She didn't need to touch it to know something was moving. She could see it, rhythmic, undeniable. She pulled out her phone and opened the camera, recording 15 seconds of video. The movement showed clearly on screen, a subtle rise and fall beneath her skin, independent of her heartbeat, independent of her breathing. She saved the video, evidence, proof she wasn't imagining this. At 8 a.m., the doors unlocked. Sarah was first through them. The intake nurse took her vitals. Blood pressure, 138/88, elevated, unusual for her. The nurse made notes. Patient anxious, repeatedly touching right cheek. Doctor. Rebecca Hayes appeared 20 minutes later, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and 20 years of family medicine behind her. "So, tell me what's going on." Sarah explained the timeline. Started Monday, thought it was acne, growing daily, moving. She showed Dr. Hayes the video on her phone. The doctor's professional calm held steady, but something flickered in her eyes. She pulled on latex gloves and approached Sarah's face with a penlight. "I'm going to examine this now. Tell me if anything hurts." Her fingers palpated gently around the inflamed area. Then she pressed from a different angle. Her hand stopped. 4 seconds of absolute stillness. Then her fingers retracted, just slightly, involuntarily. Sarah watched the doctor's face in the reflection of the examination room's glass cabinet. Hayes' jaw tightened, almost imperceptibly. "Can you feel that?" the doctor asked, her voice carefully neutral. "Feel what? The mobility of the mass?" Sarah's stomach dropped. "It moves." Hayes reached for her pen and clicked it 3 times, a nervous gesture that contradicted her steady voice. "I'm not entirely sure what this is." Could be an abscess, could be a cyst. But the movement you're describing and what I'm feeling. She trailed off, typing rapidly into her computer. I'm sending you to dermatology. Today. Today, is it serious? Dr. Hayes turned to face her distressingly. I don't want to alarm you, but I'd rather have a specialist look at this right away. She typed another line, then paused, her cursor hovering over a word. She added it. Possible organism. Sarah saw the word on the screen. Organism. What does that mean? Let's just see what the dermatologist says. A nurse appeared within minutes, phone already to her ear. Mountain View Dermatology. I have an urgent referral from Hayes. Yes, I understand you're booked, but yes, thank you. She turned to Sarah. 11 a.m. They moved someone to fit you in. Dr. Hayes leaned forward. Don't eat anything, just in case. In case of what? The doctor's expression remained professionally neutral, but her eyes told a different story. Let's just see what they find. Sarah sat in her car in the urgent care parking lot, hands gripping the steering wheel. The word organism echoed in her skull like a warning bell. She pulled out her phone and called Michael. He answered on the second ring. Hey, babe, what's up? Her voice cracked. Something's wrong. What do you mean? Where are you? I just saw a doctor. About the bump. She used the word organism. Silence stretched across the line. Then what does that mean? I don't know. Maybe a parasite. Where would you get a parasite? Sarah's mind reeled backward. I don't know. I'm leaving work. Send me the address. Michael, you don't have to. Sarah, I'm coming. Send me the address. After he hung up, she sat alone with her thoughts. Her fingers found her phone again, typing before she could stop herself. Subcutaneous parasites, humans, USA. The results loaded. Botfly larvae. Cutaneous larva migrans. Scabies. Horrifying images filled her screen-swollen tissue. Larvae emerging from skin. Medical diagrams that made her stomach clench. She clicked on botfly images and immediately wished she hadn't. The creatures looked prehistoric, segmented, alien. She threw her phone onto the passenger seat. 2 hours stretched before her like an eternity. She drove to the nearest Starbucks, ordered nothing, and sat in a corner booth with her hood up and sunglasses on despite being indoors. Other customers gave her wide berth. She must have looked disturbed. She felt disturbed. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. Hey, weird question. Did you have any bug issues at the resort? Sarah stared at the message. Her fingers moved across the screen. What and why? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Just wondering, I have this weird bump. At Sarah's heart rate spiked, like a mosquito bite. Kind of. Did anyone else mention anything? What kind of anything? My cousin Emma said she got a rash. Why? What's going on? Sarah typed. Probably nothing. Doctor's appointment in an hour. Do you need me to come? No. I'm fine. Okay, but seriously, call me after. Sarah set down her phone and pressed her palms against her eyes. Was this connected? Were multiple people affected, or was Emma's rash just a sun allergy? A coincidence? Nothing. She pulled up her phone camera and studied her reflection. The bump commanded her entire field of vision now. Red, inflamed, with that dark spot at the center like a puncture wound, like something had gone in or was trying to get out. At 10:30, Michael's Subaru pulled into the parking lot. He found her car and climbed into the passenger seat. His eyes went immediately to her face. Jesus! Sarah! It's worse, isn't it? He didn't lie. It's bigger than yesterday. She turned toward the window light. He leaned closer, his Eagle Scout first aid training evident in how he examined it, clinical, methodical. He studied the raised lump, the reddened perimeter, that darkened center point. Have you had any other symptoms? Fever, fatigue. Low fever this morning, 99.8. His jaw tightened. When did you first notice it? Monday morning. And you waited until today. Defensiveness flared in her chest. I thought it was just acne. Sarah, you've been weird all week. Why didn't you tell me? Because, her voice rose, because I'm embarrassed. Okay, because it's gross and I feel gross and I don't know what's wrong with me. His expression softened. He reached for her hand. Whatever this is, we'll deal with it together. She wanted to believe him, but the word organism kept circling her thoughts like a vulture. You don't have to come in with me, she said. I'm coming. They arrived at Mountain View Dermatology at 10:55. The office looked expensive earth tones, abstract art on the walls, a water feature in the corner. The receptionist smiled warmly. Sarah Mitchell, Dr. Thompson is ready for you. No waiting. That fact alone sent anxiety coursing through her veins. Michael squeezed her hand. You want me to come in? Yes. No. I don't know. She took a breath. Yes. Come with me. Marcus Thompson met them in examination room 3. He was younger than she expected, early 40s, confident posture, the easy manner of someone who'd seen everything. Board certifications hung on the wall behind him. So, Dr. Hayes sent you over. Let's take a look. He rolled his chair closer and produced a dermatoscope, a specialized magnifying lens with built-in light. Sarah watched his face in the reflection of the glass cabinet as he examined her cheek. His expression shifted from curious to focused to concerned in the span of 30 seconds. He leaned back, fingers drumming once against his knee. Do you see this small dark spot here? He pointed to the center of the lesion. Sarah squinted at her reflection in his handheld mirror. The bruise? It's called a punctum, a breathing hole. The words hung in the air like smoke. Sarah felt Michael's hand tighten on her shoulder. What breathed? She whispered. Duck. Thompson set down the dermatoscope and met her eyes. Have you traveled internationally recently? The question felt like a trapdoor opening beneath her feet. Belize? 2 months ago. My friend's wedding? He typed rapidly into his computer. How long were you there? 4 days. Why? Did you spend time outdoors near water? It was a beach wedding. I was outside the whole time. His fingers paused over the keyboard. Do you remember any bug bites? Memory surfaced like a body from deep water. The ceremony, the sand, the breeze, and then the sting on her cheek. Quick, sharp, then gone. Yes, during the ceremony, one mosquito on my cheek. She pointed to the exact location. Thompson nodded slowly, grimly. Which cheek? She pointed to the lesion. He exhaled through his nose. That's consistent. Consistent with what? Michael's voice came from behind her, tight with controlled fear. Doctor! Thompson swiveled to face them both. I believe you have myiasis. What's that? Infestation by fly larvae. The word infestation ricocheted through Sarah's skull. She heard it but couldn't process it. Fly, like a housefly. Bot fly, Dermatobia hominis, endemic to Central and South America. Michael stepped forward. Wait, are you saying there's a larva living under her skin? Yes. The room tilted. Sarah gripped the examination table's paper covering, hearing it crinkle beneath her fingers. Get it out, right now. We will. But we need to do this carefully. He pulled up images on his computer screen, diagrams, life cycle charts, medical photographs she couldn't bear to look at directly. He explained the process in clinical terms that somehow made it worse. Bot flies capture mosquitoes, lay eggs on their bodies. Mosquito bites human. Body heat hatches eggs within 24 hours. Larvae burrow into skin, feed on tissue, grow for 5 to 10 weeks. Eventually emerge to pupate in soil. Sarah's vision tunneled. You're saying this has been in me for how long? Based on the size, approximately 6 weeks. 6 weeks? She did the math. Belize was 7 weeks ago. It had entered her within days of returning home. While she was sleeping, working, living her life, something had been growing inside her face. I'm going to be sick. Michael grabbed the trash can just in time. She dry-heaved twice, then sat back, wiping her mouth with a tissue the doctor offered. How do we get it out? Michael asked. Dr. Thompson outlined 2 options. First, the suffocation method. Cover the breathing hole with petroleum jelly or bacon. Force the larva to back out on its own to breathe. Takes 3 to 24 hours. Less invasive, no scarring. Second, surgical extraction, local anesthetic. Small incision, remove with forceps. More invasive, small suture, but immediate. Sarah didn't hesitate. Surgery. Today. Now. Sarah, maybe we should consider. Michael began. No. Her voice came out harder than intended. I can't walk around with this alive in me for another day. I can't. Dr. Thompson nodded. I understand. Let me call our surgical suite. See if we can get you in this afternoon. A nurse led them to the imaging room. Sarah lay on the examination table, staring at acoustic ceiling tiles, while cold ultrasound gel spread across her cheek. The probe pressed against her skin, and the nurse adjusted the monitor. Would you like to see? The nurse asked hesitantly. Yes. The screen showed grainy black and white imagery layers of tissue, a dark oval chamber, and inside it, a segmented structure approximately 12 millimeters long. Is that? Sarah couldn't finish the question. That's the larva. As they watched, it moved, a subtle shift, peristaltic motion, undeniably alive. Sarah turned her head away and tasted bile. Just tell me it's the only one. The nurse's silence lasted a beat too long. The ultrasound only shows one. That's not the same as saying there's only one. Dr. Thompson will review these images. If there were others, we'd see them. But Sarah heard the careful phrasing, the medical hedging. They couldn't promise. They didn't know for sure. After the nurse left, Sarah remained on the table, staring at the frozen image on the monitor. The larva looked massive on screen. Alien! Wrong! She touched her cheek and tried to correlate the image with the sensation beneath her fingertips. Knowing it was there and seeing it were 2 different levels of violation. Michael found her crying. "Hey, what happened?" "I saw it moving." He looked at the screen and went pale. "Oh, Jesus. I feel disgusting, like I'm contaminated. You're not. This isn't your fault. I should have been more careful, should have used more bug spray, should have worn different clothes, should have... Stop." He knelt beside the examination table. "This is random. Bad luck. That's it." But it didn't feel random. It felt personal, targeted, like the universe had singled her out for this particular nightmare. Dr. Thompson returned at 12:30. "We can take you at 2 p.m. I'll be performing the extraction with Patricia Montgomery. She's a surgical dermatologist. Done this procedure before." "How many times?" "This will be her 3rd bot fly extraction. But she trained in Guatemala. She's done dozens there." "3rd in the United States, dozens in Guatemala." The statistics should have been comforting, but somehow weren't. They moved to the waiting room. 2 hours stretched ahead. Sarah couldn't read the magazines, couldn't scroll her phone, could only sit with one hand pressed over the bump, hyper-aware of every sensation. Michael researched quietly on his phone, his face growing progressively more disturbed as he scrolled. Jennifer called. Sarah debated answering, then picked up. "Okay. What's going on?" "Your texts freaked me out. I'm at a dermatologist. They're removing something." "Removing what?" Sarah took a breath. "A botfly larva." Silence. Then a what? "From Belize. From your wedding." "Oh, my God." "Sarah, I had no idea. It's not your fault." "Jen." "Yes, it is. I chose that resort because it was cheap, and I didn't want to spend." "Stop. Ugh. I'm an adult. I chose to come." Jennifer was crying now. "I'm so sorry. Is it bad?" "They're taking it out in an hour. I'll be fine." After the call ended, Michael looked at her. "That was generous. You didn't have to let her off the hook. What good would blame do? Still, she chose a resort with health risks to save money." "Michael, drop it." But privately, Sarah wondered, would Jennifer have chosen Belize if money weren't an issue? Would any of this have happened if the wedding had been in California or Colorado or anywhere that didn't harbor tropical parasites? An elderly woman sat across from them, waiting for a skin cancer screening. A teenager leafed through a magazine, acne treatment consultation scheduled, normal dermatology problems. Routine. Sarah felt alien among them. Freakish, like she'd brought something foreign and terrible into this clean, sterile space. At 1:45, a nurse appeared. "Sarah Mitchell, we're ready for you." Her heart hammered against her ribs. Michael stood with her. "You've got this. Come with me. I can't go into surgery." Panic flared. "I don't want to be alone." The nurse smiled gently. "He can stay with you while we prep. Then he'll wait right outside." The surgical suite smelled like iodine and fear, bright lights, metal instruments on trays, a reclining chair that looked like a torture device. Dr. Thompson stood reviewing ultrasound images. Patricia Montgomery entered a woman in her 50s with steady hands and direct eyes. "I'll be performing the extraction. Dr. Thompson will assist." She met Sarah's gaze. "This is my 3rd fly removal here, but I trained in Central America. I've done this many times." "How many?" Sarah needed a number. Personally, 43. The number provided thin comfort. Consent forms appeared. Sarah signed with shaking hands. Risks, infection, scarring, incomplete removal, anesthetic reaction, standard surgical disclaimers that felt anything but standard. A nurse inserted an IV. Just a mild sedative. You'll be awake but relaxed. I don't want to be awake. Tder. Montgomery's voice came firm but kind. Local anesthesia only for this procedure. You won't feel pain. Will I feel it moving? Honesty flickered in the doctor's eyes. You might feel pressure and tugging. We'll work quickly. Michael kissed her forehead. 20 minutes. I'll be right outside that door. Sarah gripped his hand. Don't leave the building. I won't. Promise. Then he was gone. And she was alone, with gloved hands and bright lights, and the thing living in her face. The lidocaine injection burned like fire beneath her skin. Montgomery worked methodically. 4 injection sites around the lesion, each one sending waves of stinging pain radiating across Sarah's cheek. She gripped the chair's armrests until her knuckles turned bone white. That's normal. It'll go numb in a minute, Dr. Thompson said from somewhere to her left. Sarah stared at the surgical lights overhead, trying to detach from her body, from the sensations, from the knowledge of what was about to happen. The lights burned white circles into her vision. She could smell her own fear sharp, acidic, mixing with the antiseptic scent that permeated everything. Montgomery tested the area with a probe. Can you feel this? No, nothing. Good, we're ready. Sarah wanted to say wait, wanted to ask more questions, demand more reassurance, but her mouth had gone dry. She closed her eyes. Deep breath, Montgomery said. The scalpel made a sound Sarah felt more than heard, a whisper of metal through tissue. She'd expected pain despite the anesthetic, but there was only pressure. Distant, wrong, like someone was excavating something that belonged to her body. I've got it, Dr. Montgomery murmured. Forceps? Sarah felt them enter the wound, felt the doctor's careful probing. Then resistance. The forceps pulled gently. Then, with more force, something deep inside refused to let go. It's holding on, Dr. Thompson said quietly. Dr. Montgomery repositioned, pulled from a different angle. The resistance increased. Sarah's jaw ached from clenching. Her hands cramped around the armrests, the spines. Dr. Thompson continued. They're anchoring it. Sarah's eyes flew open. Spines. Try to stay still. Montgomery said, not answering the question. More pressure. Deliberate. Steady force. Sarah felt it in her jawbone, felt vibrations traveling through the structure of her face. Then something gave way not all at once, but in increments, like Velcro separating. I can feel something, Sarah whispered. What do you feel? Pulling. From inside, like roots. That's the barbs. Try to stay still. The pulling sensation intensified. Sarah's vision blurred with tears, not from pain the anesthetic held, but from the profound wrongness of feeling something being extracted from within her own flesh, like her body was being turned inside out in slow motion. Then release, a wet sound, immediate absence of pressure, the feeling of space where something solid had been. Got it. It's out. Sarah's entire body trembled. Is it all of it? Thompson leaned in with a magnifier, examining the specimen in Dr. Montgomery's forceps. Several seconds passed. Intact, Complete. The relief in his voice was palpable. "Can I see it?" Sarah asked. "Just—" Montgomery hesitated. "Are you sure?" "Yes." A nurse held up a clear specimen cup. Inside, suspended in saline, was the larva. Sarah forced herself to look, cream-colored and segmented like something primordial, covered in rings of brown spines that caught the light, perhaps 15 millimeters long, and moving, slowly, deliberately, wriggling in the fluid. Sarah's stomach lurched. She turned her head and vomited into the basin a nurse had ready. Dry heaves followed, her body rejecting the reality of what she'd just witnessed. "That's completely normal," the nurse said. Holding Sarah's hair back, Sarah wiped her mouth with her shaking hands. "It's alive. Why is it still alive? Just—" "Doctor?" Thompson answered. "They're remarkably resilient. CDC requires secured specimens when possible. So you're keeping it. We'll send it to Colorado Department of Public Health. They'll forward it to the CD. How long will it live? In saline, up to 48 hours. The thought made Sarah's skin crawl. The thing that had violated her, that had fed on her tissue, that had lived inside her face, it would survive in that cup for 2 more days. Breathing, moving, existing. Dart. Montgomery began closing the wound. 2 internal dissolving sutures, 3 external ones. Sarah felt tugging but no pain. Antibiotic ointment, gauze dressing, tape. "You did great." "All done." Michael was pacing the waiting room when they wheeled Sarah out. He rushed over, his face pale with worry. "Hey, you okay?" She couldn't speak, just held out her hand. He took it, and she felt the tremor in his fingers matching her own. The nurse carried the specimen cup, labeled and sealed. Michael's eyes locked on it. "Is that the larva still viable? We'll be sending it to, can we not?" Michael's voice came sharp. "She doesn't need to see that again." But Sarah stopped them. "No, I want to see it." Michael looked confused. "Why? I need to know it's real, that it's out." The nurse placed the container on the table beside Sarah's wheelchair. The larva moved sluggishly in the saline, its segmented body contracting and expanding. Sarah stared at it. This creature that had been part of her for 6 weeks, uninvited, unwanted, but undeniably real. "It's smaller than I thought," she whispered. "It's huge," Michael countered. A laugh, cry hybrid, escaped her throat. "Yeah, it is." Thompson appeared with discharge papers. "Antibiotic prescription, Caflex, 500 milligrams, 4 times daily for 7 days. Pain management, Tylenol only. No ibuprofen due to bleeding risk. Wound care, keep dry for 48 hours. Then gentle cleaning. Follow-up appointment in 7 days for suture removal. Some patients experience phantom sensations." Dr. Thompson added, his tone careful. "Like what? Crawling feelings, itching, even though nothing's there." "For how long, cuz it varies, days to weeks, sometimes longer, but it's not real. It's your nervous system adjusting, completely normal. If it becomes overwhelming, we can discuss medication to help manage the anxiety." The word anxiety stung, like he was suggesting this was in her head, but she was too exhausted to argue. At the reception desk, reality delivered another blow. "Your total today is $2,847. Sarah stared. "My insurance?" The receptionist's expression remained professionally sympathetic. "They coded it as a non-covered tropical disease. You can appeal." "Of course." Michael already had his credit card out. "I've got it." "Michael." "No. We'll figure it out later. Let's just go home." The drive back to her apartment passed in silence. Sarah sat in the passenger seat, watching Denver suburbs blur past the window. The bandage on her face felt enormous, like a billboard announcing her trauma. Other drivers glanced over at stoplights, or maybe she was imagining it. Everything felt surreal, like she was watching her life through smudged glass. "I can still feel it," she said quietly. Michael glanced over. The doctor said, "I know what he said, but I can feel it, crawling." His jaw tightened. He didn't argue. What could he say? That her nerves were lying, that 6 weeks of harboring a parasite could be erased. In one afternoon, he pulled into a King Soopers parking lot and turned off the engine. "What are you doing?" "You're in shock. This is trauma. But it's over." "Is it?" The question came out sharper than intended. "Sarah, that thing was alive inside me for 6 weeks. I was walking around, working, eating, sleeping, and it was feeding on me." Tears streamed down her face. "I didn't even know. How did I not know?" Michael reached for her hand. She pulled away. "Don't touch me." Hurt flashed across his face. "Okay. I'm sorry. I feel disgusting, like I'm infected, like I'm still contaminated, even though it's gone." "You're not." "But I can still feel it. What if that never goes away? What if I feel this forever?" "You won't. You heard the doctor. It takes time." "How do I know my body is mine?" The question tumbled out before she could stop it. "How do I know there's not something else? Somewhere that I just haven't noticed yet?" "You're spiraling." "Of course I'm spiraling. This is insane." He let her cry. Didn't try to fix it. Didn't offer empty reassurances. Just sat beside her in the parking lot while she fell apart. Finally, Michael spoke. "I'm going to run in, get your prescription filled, grab some food. Come with me or wait here." "I can't be alone right now." "Okay, come on." Inside the grocery store, fluorescent lights assaulted her senses. Everything felt too bright, too loud, too much. She was hyper-aware of her bandage, of people's eyes sliding toward her face, then quickly away. In the produce section, she stopped in front of the broccoli display. The texture of those tiny segmented florets reminded her of the larva's body. Her stomach heaved. She found herself sitting on the floor in the bread aisle, unable to remember walking there. Michael appeared above her. Concern etched deep in his features. "I can't do this," she whispered. He helped her up. "Let's get you on." Sarah's apartment felt like a stranger's home. Michael unpacked groceries while she sat on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, lights off, curtains drawn. The television played something she wasn't watching. Her mind remained in that surgical suite, replaying the wet sound of extraction, the sight of the larva wriggling in saline. Michael appeared with a pill and water glass. "Time for your antibiotic." "What if I'm allergic?" "Then we'll deal with it. But you need to take it." She swallowed the Keflex and grimaced at the chemical aftertaste. "I need to shower," she said. "I feel gross." "Doctor said keep it dry for 48 hours. "I can't. I smell it." Michael knelt beside the couch. "Smell what?" "The rot? The infection? It's on me. Inside me." He sniffed carefully. I don't smell anything. But she could, or thought she could. A faint organic decay that clung to her skin. Her hair, her clothes, the smell of something that had been living where it shouldn't. Okay, Michael said gently. Let's do a sponge bath. I'll help. In the bathroom, warm washcloth in hand, she stood before the mirror. The bandage covered the right side of her face like a white flag of surrender. The left side looked normal, her eye, her cheek, her jaw, all familiar. But the asymmetry made her feel broken, split, no longer whole. Michael helped her wash carefully around the bandage. His touch was clinical, efficient, kind. But Sarah felt nothing except the persistent sensation of crawling beneath her skin. Did you take a picture? She asked suddenly. Of the larva. What? No. Why would I? I should have. I need evidence. Evidence of what? That it was real, that I'm not crazy. Michael set down the washcloth. You're not crazy. But she pulled out her phone anyway, searching botfly larva and scrolling through images, comparing them to her memory of what she'd seen. Some looked larger, some smaller, some were darker, some lighter. She needed to know exactly which species, exactly how rare, exactly how much danger she'd been in. By 9 p. Exhaustion pulled her toward bed, but fear kept her awake. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the ultrasound image, that segmented shape moving beneath her skin. She saw Dr. Montgomery's forceps pulling, meeting resistance. She saw the specimen cup and the creature inside it, still alive. Michael lay beside her, fully clothed on top of the covers. Do you want me to stay? Yeah, please. I'm sorry I'm being insane. You're not. This is messed up. Anyone would react to this way. But she wondered if that was true. Wondered if other people would fall apart like this, or if there was something fundamentally weak in her that made her unable to cope. At 3 a.m., she bolted upright, screaming. Michael scrambled for the lamp. Hey, you're okay. It's hatching. They're hatching. Look at me. You're safe. It's out. She was hyperventilating, clawing at her face. Michael caught her wrists. Look at me. You're in your bedroom. The larva is gone. You had a nightmare. Sarah's breath came in ragged gasps. She touched the bandage intact. No blood, no movement. I dreamed there were more. Hundreds, all over me. Michael held her until the shaking subsided. Dawn came slowly, unwelcome. Saturday morning arrived with Michael making breakfast. The smell of coffee, normally comforting, made Sarah nauseous. She stayed in bed, bandage itching fiercely. Her fingers hovered over it, wanting to tear it off, to check the wound, to make sure nothing remained. In the bathroom mirror, she carefully peeled back one edge of the bandage. The wound looked angry red, slightly swollen, 3 black sutures like insect legs stitching her flesh together around it. The skin remained inflamed. She pressed gently beside the incision site. Nothing. But the sensation of something being there persisted. Phantom pressure that her rational mind knew was false, but her nervous system reported as real. Michael appeared in the doorway with his laptop. I was reading about post-extraction care. I don't want to read about it. There's a support group online for people who've had this. She turned to stare at him. A support group for botfly victims. Yeah, tropical disease survivors. They talk about PTSD, the phantom feelings. I'm not joining a support group. Okay, but it's there if you change your mind. Her phone buzzed on the bathroom counter. Jennifer's name appeared with 6 unread messages. Sarah, please call me. I feel horrible. I'm looking into the resort, filing a complaint. Other guests are coming forward. Please talk to me. Sarah read them but couldn't bring herself to respond. What would she say? That she forgave Jennifer? She wasn't sure she did, that it wasn't Jennifer's fault. It partially was, that everything would be fine. It wouldn't. Michael watched her from the doorway. You should talk to her. I need to go back to work Monday. That's 2 days away. Maybe take the week off. No, I need normal. I need to pretend this didn't happen, but that's not healthy. I don't care. I can't sit here and think about it. But Monday came, and Sarah wasn't ready. She spent 45 minutes applying makeup, trying to cover the bandage with heavy concealer. It remained visible no matter how much product she used. She'd practiced her story, minor skin procedure. Totally fine. Nothing to worry about. The office felt alien. Co-worker Jen Adams approached immediately. Oh my God, you're back. How are you? Good. Yeah. All taken care of. What was it? Just a cyst. No big deal. Jen's expression suggested she didn't entirely believe this, but she didn't press. The morning passed in a haze of emails Sarah couldn't focus on, and meetings where she felt everyone staring at her face. At 11:30, she locked herself in a bathroom stall, scratching her arm until it turned red. The phantom sensation had migrated. Now it was crawling up her forearm, despite nothing being there. She texted Michael, I can't do this. Come home. It's okay to not be okay. At 2 p.m., someone brought donuts to the break room. Sarah walked in, saw a bear claw on the table, flaky layers, segmented pastry, and her vision tunneled. The texture looked exactly like the larva's body. She ran to the bathroom and vomited. A co-worker found her. Sarah, are you pregnant? The question was so absurd, Sarah laughed harshly. No, definitely not. She left work at 3:15, telling her boss she had food poisoning. The lie came easily. She drove home crying, pulled into her parking spot, and sat in the car for an hour, unable to go inside. Tuesday brought the follow-up appointment with Dr. Thompson. The sutures were healing well. He said, no signs of infection. Everything looked normal. I still feel it, moving. That's the phantom sensation I mentioned. It's been 4 days. When does it stop? Could be weeks. Some patients benefit from counseling. The suggestion felt like an accusation. I don't need counseling. I need it to stop. He hesitated, then wrote a prescription. A mild anxiolytic. It might help. She took the slip of paper, but didn't fill it. Accepting medication felt like admitting the problem was in her head rather than her body. And she knew what she was feeling was real, even if the larva was gone. Wednesday night, she stayed awake until 4 a.m. researching. Botfly secondary infestation, multiple botfly larvae, missed botfly removal complications. She found forums full of horror stories. One woman had 3 larvae. They'd missed the 3rd one during extraction. It had migrated toward her eye. Sarah photographed every inch of her body, created a folder on her phone, body surveillance. 47 photos. She compared them daily, looking for changes, for new bumps, for evidence of what she feared most, that there were more. Michael found her in the bathroom Thursday night, surrounded by printed photos. What are you doing making sure this isn't healthy? You don't understand. You didn't have something living in you. Then help me understand. Every second, I feel something crawling inside my skin. How do I explain that? The doctor said, I don't care what the doctor said. This is my body. I know what I feel. Friday night arrived with Michael carrying Thai takeout and fading patience. Sarah hadn't eaten all day. She sat on the couch in the same clothes as yesterday, hair unwashed, eyes hollow from another sleepless night. You need to eat something, Michael said, setting containers on the coffee table. I'm not hungry. You've lost weight? You're not sleeping. This has to stop. Sarah looked up at him. What has to stop? This. The obsessing, the checking. You're disappearing. You don't get it. Then help me get it. Talk to me. Every second, I feel something crawling inside my skin. How do I explain that? The doctor said it's normal. I don't care what the doctor said. This is my body. I know what I feel. Michael's jaw tightened. Okay. But what if it is in your head? What if it's trauma? The words hung between them like an accusation. So now I'm crazy. Sarah's voice went cold. That's not what I said. That's exactly what you said. I think you need help, professional help. This isn't something you can handle alone. I needed help when I had a parasite. Now, I just need you to believe me. I believe you're in pain, but maybe it's not physical anymore. Maybe it's... Get out. Michael stopped. What? I said, get out. Go home. I don't want you here. Sarah, come on. Leave. Her voice cracked on the word. He stood there for a long moment, searching her face for something she couldn't give him. Then he picked up his keys and walked out. The door closed with terrible finality. Sarah sat in the silence, alone, exactly what she'd wanted, exactly what she couldn't bear. But if she was broken, he shouldn't have to witness it. Better to push him away than let him watch her disintegrate. At midnight, she was in the bathtub, fully clothed, water running over her, trying to wash away the feeling, the memory, the violation. She scrubbed her skin with a washcloth until it turned red, then pink, then she saw blood, and finally stopped. Her phone remained silent. Michael hadn't texted. Good, she'd burned that bridge successfully. Added it to the growing list of things the larva had taken from her. Saturday morning. The doorbell rang at 9 a.m. Sarah ignored it. It rang again, then knocking about. Then Jennifer's voice through the door. Sarah, I know you're in there. Your car is here. Sarah considered not answering, but Jennifer's knocking grew more insistent. She opened the door. Jennifer's expression shifted from determination to shock. Jesus, you look like shit. Yeah, thanks. Jennifer pushed inside without invitation. Can I come in? But she was already in, looking around at the apartment's deterioration, dishes piled in the sink, mail scattered on the floor, curtains still drawn against afternoon sun. I need to tell you something, Jennifer said. If it's another apology, the resort, the Belize resort, I knew. Sarah froze. Knew what? Not about the botflies specifically. But there were complaints, online reviews, about bugs, about people getting sick. The words landed like physical blows. And you booked it anyway. Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. It was half the price of the other options. We couldn't afford anything else. The wedding was already over budget, and I thought people were just being dramatic. I thought if we were careful, so you risked everyone's health to save money. Yes, Jennifer's voice broke. Yes, I did, and I'm so sorry. There's more, Jennifer continued. I talked to other guests. Emma, my cousin, her rash wasn't just a rash, it was bot flies. 3 of them. Sarah's legs went weak. She sat down hard on the couch. What? Mark's groomsmen? Luke, my Aunt Carol, and the photographer, all bot flies, all of them. 4 people. At one wedding? Jennifer nodded, crying openly now. The resort knew. They've been getting complaints for months. They just don't tell people. They bury it. Deny liability. She showed Sarah her phone. Email from the resort's legal team. We regret your unfortunate experience with local wildlife. However, insect encounters are a natural occurrence in tropical environments and do not constitute negligence on the part of the resort. Local wildlife, natural occurrence. The clinical language made Sarah's stomach turn. There's a class action lawsuit forming, Jennifer said. 23 documented cases in 18 months. The resort's insurance is denying all claims, calling it an act of God. Sarah stared at the screen. 23 people, 23 violations, and the resort just kept operating, kept taking bookings, kept exposing people to parasites while hiding behind legal language. So it wasn't just me, Sarah whispered. I wasn't unlucky. No, you were targeted, we all were, by a resort that chose profit over disclosure. Sarah felt something shift inside her chest, the shame she'd been carrying, the sense that she'd been foolish, careless. Somehow deserving of what happened began to crack. This wasn't random bad luck. This was systemic negligence. Why are you telling me this? Sarah asked. Because you need to know it wasn't your fault, and because I need you to forgive me. Sarah looked at her friend, at the guilt written across her face, the tears, the desperate need for absolution. I don't know if I can, Sarah said honestly. I understand. You chose money over safety, my safety. I know. And now I'm broken because of that choice. You're not broken? Sarah laughed bitterly. You have no idea what this has done to me. I pushed Michael away. I can barely work. I check my body obsessively. I have nightmares every night. I can't eat certain foods because the texture reminds me of... Her voice broke. I'm not the person I was. Jennifer sat beside her on the couch. Then I'll help you become someone new, someone who survived this. Let me help. How? However you need. Therapy, lawsuit, whatever it takes. Sunday afternoon, Sarah's phone rang from an unknown number. She almost didn't answer. This is Dr. Elena Martinez from the Colorado Department of Public Health. As Sarah's heart rate spiked. Is something wrong? No. Nothing like that. We received the specimen from your case. I'd like to ask some follow-up questions, if you have time. The questions were clinical. Timeline, symptoms, when she first noticed, travel details. Sarah answered mechanically, reciting facts like reading from someone else's medical chart. And how are you feeling now physically? Fine, healing, and mentally? The question surprised her. Why does that matter? Because this isn't just a medical issue. It's psychological, traumatic. And you're not alone in that. What do you mean? You're the 47th reported case from Belize in the past year. Sarah's breath caught. 47. That resort specifically accounts for 31 of those cases. Why hasn't anyone shut them down? It's complicated. International jurisdiction, liability laws, diplomatic issues, but we're building a case. We need testimonies, people willing to go public. Go public how? There's a journalist I work with, Denver Post. She's investigating the resort, the outbreak pattern, the health implications. Would you be willing to speak with her on the record? Sarah thought of the 47 others, thought of herself at day one, ignoring the bump, thinking it was just stress, thought of how many more people might book that resort next month, next year. What would I have to do? Just tell your story, honestly, the timeline, the symptoms, the impact on your life, the impact. Sarah thought of Michael walking out, of the lost work days, of sitting on her bathroom floor at 3 a.m., convinced there were more larvae hatching beneath her skin. It's ruined my life, she said quietly. Then say that. People need to know the real cost, not just the medical procedure, but the aftermath, the trauma, the recovery that takes months, not days. Sarah closed her eyes. Let me think about it. Of course. I'll send you the contact information. After the call ended, Sarah sat holding her phone. Going public meant admitting what happened, meant putting her face, her name, her story out into the world, meant being known as the woman who had a larva in her face. But it also meant fighting back, meant turning violation into action, meant maybe possibly preventing someone else from sitting in a surgical suite while doctors pulled a living creature from beneath their skin. Sunday evening, another call. This one she'd been dreading. Mom calling appeared on the screen. They hadn't spoken in 6 weeks. Not since before Belize. Not since the last argument about Sarah working too much, never visiting, always too busy. Sarah answered, "Hi, Mom. Sarah, honey." Just the sound of her mother's voice made something break inside her chest. "Jennifer called me," her mother continued. "She said you've been sick. Why didn't you tell me? Because I don't know. It's embarrassing." Embarrassing, Sarah. You had a parasite. That's not embarrassing. It's medical. It feels embarrassing. It feels disgusting. Her mother was quiet for a moment. Remember when you were 8 and you got lice from school? Sarah did remember, vaguely. That's not the same thing. You cried for days, said you were dirty, wouldn't let anyone touch you. The memory sharpened. 3rd grade, the nurse's office, the humiliation of the lice check, coming home with the special shampoo, feeling contaminated. "And what did I tell you?" her mother asked. Sarah's throat tightened. "That bugs don't care who you are. They're just bugs." Exactly. This isn't about you. It's not personal. But it was personal. It was inside me. "Mom." "I know, baby. I know." And then Sarah was crying, really crying, for the first time since the extraction. Great heaving sobs that she'd been holding back for days. Sarah sat on her couch with her mother's voice in her ear, crying in a way she hadn't allowed herself to cry since this nightmare began. Not the angry tears or the frightened tears, but the deep, exhausted tears of someone who'd been holding herself together with nothing but willpower and spite. "And I can still feel it," Sarah said between sobs. "All the time. I know it's not there, but I feel it crawling. That's trauma, sweetheart. I pushed Michael away. I'm barely working. I'm falling apart. Her mother's voice came gentle but firm. Then let me help. Come home for a few days. I can't. I have work. Work will be there. You need to heal. I don't know how. You don't have to know how. You just have to start. Where do I start? By calling Michael, by talking to a therapist, by being honest about what you need. Sarah wiped her eyes. I don't even know what I need. Then start with what you don't need. You don't need to do this alone. After they hung up, Sarah sat in the growing darkness of her apartment. Her mother's words circled through her mind. She picked up her phone and opened her messages to Michael. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard for a full minute before she typed, I'm sorry, can we talk? The response came immediately. I'm on my way. 20 minutes later, Michael knocked softly on her door. She opened it, and they stood looking at each other. Two people who'd been through something neither knew how to process. You look terrible, he said. She laughed, despite everything. Thanks. No, I mean, you look exhausted. I am. Can you just hold me? They stood in her doorway for 5 minutes, not speaking, just holding each other. Then Michael said, Tell me, help me understand what you're going through. They sat on the couch, and Sarah explained everything, the constant phantom sensations, the body-checking obsession, the nightmares every night, the feeling of being permanently contaminated, the shame, the violation, the loss of control over her own flesh. Michael listened without interrupting. When she finished, he said, I was scared. I didn't know how to help, so I tried to fix it. Told you it was in your head. It is in my head, Sarah admitted, but it's also real. Both things are true. I'm here now, whatever you need. I need therapy, like actual therapy. Okay, I'll help you find someone. And I need to do something about the resort. There's a journalist who wants to talk to me. The one from the health department. Yeah, I think I need to tell my story. Go public. Michael took her hand. I'll be with you every step. 3 weeks crawled by before Sarah's first therapy appointment. Dr. Helen Kowalski specialized in trauma. Her office filled with plants and soft lighting that was supposed to be calming, but just made Sarah more aware of how fragile she felt. Tell me what brought you here, Dr. Kowalski said. Sarah almost laughed. A bug. A bug brought me here. Over 3 sessions, the diagnosis came post-traumatic stress disorder. Sarah stared at the words on the intake form. From a bug, she asked. From violation of bodily autonomy, from loss of control, from sustained threat. Your body was invaded by something you couldn't see, couldn't control, couldn't stop. For 6 weeks, you were a host to something that fed on you. That's trauma. Dr. Kowalski explained that even though the larva was gone, Sarah's nervous system remained on high alert. The phantom sensations were her body constantly checking, scanning for threats, unable to trust that the danger had passed. Treatment involved cognitive behavioral therapy to challenge catastrophic thinking, exposure therapy looking at photos of the larva, talking about the experience without shutting down, somatic experiencing to help Sarah reconnect with her body as something safe rather than something that had betrayed her, and EMDR to process the trauma. Week 4 brought a breakthrough. Dr. Kowalski asked Sarah to touch her healed cheek. Sarah hesitated, then did it. I feel smooth skin. a small ridge from the scar. Do you feel movement? Yes, but I know it's not real now. That's progress. Knowing the difference between sensation and reality. The homework assignments started at small. Week 3, reduce body checking to twice daily, scheduled. Week 4, sleep without lights on. Week 5, eat foods with triggering textures. Week 6, return to work full time. By week 5, Sarah had a breakthrough moment. I had a whole day yesterday without phantom feelings. Dodd Kowalski leaned forward. How did that feel? Scary, like I was forgetting to guard against something. What if you didn't need to guard anymore? The question hung in the air. Sarah considered it seriously for the first time. What if I'm allowed to feel safe? Week 5 also brought the interview. Rebecca Walsh from the Denver Post met Sarah at a neutral coffee shop. She was mid-40s, kind eyes, a recorder on the table between them. "Thank you for agreeing to speak with me," Rebecca said. "I almost didn't." What changed your mind? Sarah thought about the 47 cases, about the people who'd come after her, who might come in the future. "I don't want this to happen to anyone else." She told everything. The wedding in Belize, the mosquito bite she'd dismissed, the growing bump she'd ignored, the days of denial, the horrifying realization in Dr. Thompson's office, the extraction, the aftermath. Rebecca wrote rapidly, "How has this affected your daily life?" Sarah took a breath and gave her the truth. "I lost 12 pounds. I almost lost my boyfriend. I can't look at certain foods because the texture reminds me. I check my body obsessively. I have PTSD from a bug, and the resort. Knowing they knew makes it worse." This wasn't random. This was negligence. They knew people were getting infected, and they kept operating, kept taking money, kept exposing guests to parasites. They chose profit over safety. "Would you be comfortable with a photo of your face? The scar?" Sarah looked at Michael, who'd come for moral support. He sat at a nearby table, giving her space but staying close. He nodded slightly. "Okay," Sarah said, "but I want to see it before it's published." The article went live 6 days later. Sarah read it with shaking hands. The hidden cost of destination weddings, one woman's parasitic nightmare. Her photo appeared at the top, a close-up of her face, the scar visible but healing, her eyes looking directly at the camera with something that wasn't quite anger, but wasn't forgiveness either. Determination, maybe, or defiance. The article detailed everything: the timeline, the medical facts, the emotional impact, the resort's negligence, the class action lawsuit forming, the CDC's delayed response, the 47 victims. Within 24 hours, the article had 47,000 shares. The comments section exploded with responses. "This happened to my friend in Costa Rica. I'm never traveling again. Thank you for sharing your story. That resort should be shut down immediately. Destination weddings are so selfish. The bride should have to pay for everyone's medical bills." Sarah read them all, absorbing the support and the criticism in equal measure. Some people blamed her for not using enough bug spray. Some blamed Jennifer for choosing a cheap resort. Some blamed the resort for criminal negligence. Everyone had an opinion about whose fault it was, but Sarah was learning. Slowly, that fault was less important than what came next. Week 6 brought media requests. Local news wanted an interview. A podcast invited her to share her story. Reddit wanted an AMA. Sarah felt overwhelmed. "You don't have to do all of it," Michael said. "But what if sharing helps someone?" She did the local news interview and declined the rest. One story felt manageable. More felt like exploitation of her trauma for content. But she did join a Facebook group, Botfly Survivors, 312 members worldwide. She lurked for a week, reading stories that mirrored her own, the phantom sensations, the nightmares, the obsessive body checking, the feeling of permanent contamination. Finally, she posted, "I'm day 42 post-extraction. Still struggling with phantom sensations. Does it get better?" Responses flooded in within minutes. "Day 180, here. It does get better, slowly. Therapy helped me more than anything." You're not crazy. We've all been there. "I'm at 1 year. Still get occasional phantom feelings during stress, but nothing like the first few months." The validation felt enormous. She wasn't alone. She wasn't broken beyond repair. She was healing on a timeline that made sense to other survivors. Even if it felt impossibly slow to her, Jennifer called during week 7. "I joined the lawsuit against the resort." "Good. And I'm helping organize travel health awareness workshops, teaching people what to look for, how to protect themselves, what questions to ask resorts before booking." Sarah felt surprise cut through her residual anger. "Really? It's the least I can do. I can't undo what happened, but maybe I can prevent it from happening to someone else." That's actually amazing. Would you want to help co-present? You could talk about the medical side, the symptoms, the aftermath. I'll handle the prevention and advocacy. Sarah considered. "Let me think about it." The lawsuit moved forward with grinding slowness. 31 plaintiffs now. Sarah was a named plaintiff, which meant legal meetings, depositions, paperwork that forced her to relive the experience in clinical detail. Her lawyer, a woman named Patricia Green, prepared her for what was coming. The resort's lawyers will try to make this your fault. They'll ask about your bug spray usage, your clothing choices, whether you ignored warnings. "There were no warnings," Sarah said. "Exactly. That's what we're establishing." Week 8 brought news. The resort was under investigation by Belize's Ministry of Health. Week 10, their operating license was suspended, pending review. Week 12, they were forced to implement pest control measures and disclose outbreak risks to all guests. Week 14, settlement negotiations began. Not just about money, about accountability, about transparency, about ensuring this couldn't happen to anyone else. 6 weeks post-extraction marked a turning point. Sarah woke up naturally, without an alarm. Her first thought wasn't about the larva. That felt like progress worth noting. She checked her face in the bathroom mirror. The scar had faded to a thin pink line, barely visible without makeup. She touched it gently. No phantom sensations yet today. She knocked on wood anyway. Work had returned to something resembling normal. Her coworkers had stopped asking questions. The initial awkwardness had faded into routine. Jen Adams told her privately. "We read the article. You're really brave." "I don't feel brave," Sarah had replied. "I just feel tired." "That's allowed too." Therapy continued. Dr. Kowalski checked in on her progress. "How many phantom sensation days this week? 3, down from 6 last week? That's significant progress. It still bothers me that they happen at all. They may always happen occasionally. Trauma doesn't have a clear end date. You're not broken forever. You're healing. That's different than healed. The distinction mattered. Healing implied process, motion, direction. Healed implied completion, finality. Sarah was learning to live in the space between. Friday night, she suggested a date. Her idea, a restaurant with seafood on the menu. Exposure therapy homework. She ordered shrimp segmented with texture that would have sent her running 2 weeks ago. She ate normally, only minor anxiety flickering at the edges. Michael watched her with quiet pride he didn't verbalize, but she saw it anyway. "I'm doing it," she said. "You're doing it." Her mother flew in that weekend from Oregon. No agenda, just presence. They cooked together, watched movies, talked about everything and nothing. Sarah felt something loosening in her chest, the tight grip of isolation she'd been holding. "You seem more settled," her mother observed. "I'm getting there." "Your face healed nicely." Sarah touched the scar without thinking. "The outside did. The inside will too. Just takes longer." 3 months. Post-extraction. Sarah opened her email to find a message from Dr. Martinez at the Colorado Department of Public Health. Subject: Update Belize resort case. The resort had been permanently closed. $4.2 million in settlement funds would be distributed among the 31 plaintiffs. New CDC travel warnings had been issued for the region, specifically naming botfly risks. Thanks were extended to Sarah for her public testimony, which had provided crucial evidence for the case. Sarah's portion, after legal fees, $67,000, enough to pay off her credit cards, cover her medical bills, create an emergency fund, take an actual vacation. Ironically, she made 2 decisions immediately. First, she donated $10,000 to tropical disease research. Second, she established a small fund for uninsured botfly victims who couldn't afford extraction procedures. "If I can help even one person avoid what I went through," she told Michael, "then maybe this whole nightmare will mean something." Work brought unexpected recognition. Her boss called her into his office. "We are promoting you to Senior Marketing Coordinator." "Thank you," she said carefully. "You've shown remarkable resilience this year." As Sarah didn't tell him she'd almost quit 15 times, didn't tell him about the days she'd hidden in the bathroom, crying, didn't tell him resilience was just another word for surviving when you had no other choice. The travel health workshop happened on a Saturday at the University of Colorado. 200 students planning study abroad programs filled the auditorium. Sarah and Jennifer stood at the podium together, side by side. Jennifer handled prevention strategies. Sarah covered medical realities. She showed a photo of her scar, not the larva itself. That would be too much, and explained the timeline, the missed signals, the delayed treatment, the aftermath that lasted months longer than the infection itself. During Q&A, a student raised her hand. "Would you travel again?" Sarah considered the question honestly. Yes, but differently. Informed consent changes everything. "I'll never book a trip without researching health risks. I'll never dismiss bug spray as optional. I'll never ignore my body's warnings again." After the presentation, Jennifer hugged her. "Thank you for doing this with me. We're in this together." That evening, Michael was cooking dinner when he said quietly, "I've been thinking." Sarah looked up from chopping vegetables. "Dangerous." "About us, about what we went through." Her heart sank. "If you need space, No, opposite. I want more. He pulled a small box from his pocket. Sarah's breath caught. Are you? I know the timing might seem strange, but watching you survive this and heal and fight back, I don't want to do life without you. Tears filled her eyes. You saw me at my worst. I saw you at your most real. That's different. He opened the box. Will you marry me? Yes, it's a yes. They stood in her kitchen, holding each other, the ring catching lamplight. Sarah thought about the journey from that first morning when she dismissed a small bump as nothing important. She thought about the larva, the extraction, the spiral into darkness, and the slow climb back toward light. She wasn't the person she'd been before Belize, but maybe that was okay. Maybe she was becoming who she was supposed to be. Someone who died. Someone who helped others survive. Someone who knew her body was both fragile and fierce. Dr. Kowalski had been right during their last session. You've graduated from weekly to monthly appointments. How do you know I'm ready? You're asking if you're ready. That's how. What if the sensations come back? They might, but now you have tools. You know the difference between memory and threat. Will I ever forget it happened? No, but you'll integrate it. It'll become part of your story, not the whole story. Sarah stood now at her bathroom mirror, the same mirror where this had all begun. Same lighting, same angle. The scar had faded to barely visible, a thin line you'd only notice if you knew to look for it. She thought back to day one, when she'd told herself it was just a pimple. How naive that seemed now. How innocent. She'd learned hard lessons. Sometimes small things are emergencies. Sometimes your body betrays you in ways you can't predict or prevent. Sometimes healing takes far longer than the wound. But she was still here. Changed, scarred, different, but whole in a way that mattered more than unmarked skin. The engagement ring felt solid on her finger. Michael was in the living room, waiting for her. They had dinner plans, normal plans. The kind of evening that would have been impossible 2 months ago. She closed the medicine cabinet and looked at her reflection one final time. Not the girl who'd gone to Belize, not the woman who'd harbored a parasite. Someone new, someone who'd walked through fire and come out the other side with stories to tell and wisdom to share. Her phone buzzed, a message in the botfly survivors group. Someone new, terrified, just diagnosed. I'm so scared. Does it get better? Sarah typed her response. It does, slowly, but you're not alone. We're here. She thought about the workshop, about the lawsuit's resolution, about the resort closure, about the $10,000 funding research, about the small fund helping uninsured victims, about transformation of trauma into purpose. Michael appeared in the doorway. You ready? Sarah took one last look at the mirror, at the woman looking back at her. Survivor, advocate, fiancé, someone who knew that beneath every surface, invisible battles rage. Someone who'd learned that healing isn't linear, that trauma changes you. But change isn't always destruction. Sometimes it's becoming. Yeah, she said, turning toward him, toward dinner, toward a future that felt possible again. I'm ready. They walked out of the apartment together. The door closed on the empty bathroom, on the mirror that had witnessed so much. Somewhere in a laboratory. Researchers studied the specimen that had been extracted from Sarah's face, learning from it, working toward prevention. Somewhere in Belize, a resort sat empty, shut down. Somewhere, someone was reading the Denver Post article and canceling their tropical vacation, choosing safety over savings. And somewhere inside Sarah, the phantom sensations would probably return tomorrow, or next week, or during moments of stress for years to come. But she had tools now. She had understanding. She had a community of survivors who knew exactly what she meant when she said, "I can still feel it sometimes." Most importantly, she had the knowledge that her body, despite its capacity for betrayal, despite being invaded, had also defended her, had healed itself, had emerged stronger. The scar on her cheek wasn't a mark of damage, it was a badge of survival. As they drove through Denver's evening streets, Sarah reached over and took Michael's hand. He squeezed back, and in that simple gesture was everything they'd survived together. The fear, the isolation, the breakdown, the rebuilding, love tested and proven in the worst possible circumstances. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For staying, for not giving up on me when I gave up on myself. That's what love is," he said simply. "Staying when it's hard." Sarah looked out the window at the city lights, at people going about their normal evenings, unaware of the small battles everyone carries invisibly. She thought about the elderly woman in Thompson's waiting room with her skin cancer screening, the teenager with acne, everyone fighting something, everyone carrying scars, visible or not. Her story had become public, but it was also deeply personal. The article had helped people. The lawsuit had created change. The workshops were preventing future infections. But the most important healing was the private kind, the kind that happened in therapy sessions and late-night conversations and moments alone in the bathroom, touching your scar and choosing to see strength instead of damage. The restaurant was warm and crowded. Normal. Beautifully, wonderfully normal. They ordered wine and appetizers. Sarah studied the menu without panic, without checking for triggering textures. Progress? Small, hard-won progress? To surviving? Michael raised his glass. Sarah clinked hers against his. To healing. To us. To us. The wine was good. The food was better. The conversation flowed easily, touching on wedding plans and work projects and weekend possibilities. Sarah laughed at Michael's story about a coding mishap. He smiled at her description of a client meeting. They were just two people having dinner, planning a future. The larva had taken 6 weeks of her life. The recovery had taken months. But sitting here now, Sarah realized something crucial. It hadn't taken everything. She still had her capacity for joy, for love, for hope. Those things had been buried, not destroyed, and she'd fought hard to excavate them. As they left the restaurant, Sarah's phone buzzed again. Another message in the survivors group. Another newly diagnosed person. Another story of initial dismissal and growing horror. Sarah made a mental note to respond later with encouragement, with resources, with the hard-earned wisdom that had cost her so much to gain. But for now, she was here, present, engaged literally and figuratively with life. The phantom sensations might return. The nightmares might recur. The trauma wasn't erased, but it was integrated. Part of her story now, woven into the fabric of who she was becoming. Michael drove them home through streets she'd driven 100 times before, But everything looked different now, sharper, more precious. She'd learned what could be taken away, what could invade, what could break. And she'd learned what endured, what fought back, what survived. Home felt different too. Not the prison of her darkest days, but a sanctuary. She'd reclaimed this space, these rooms, this life, one small victory at a time. As she got ready for boat, Sarah avoided looking in the mirror, not from fear, but from choice. She'd looked enough for one day, had assessed and measured and checked. Tomorrow she'd probably do it again. But tonight, she was simply tired in the good way, the way that comes from living fully, from engaging with life instead of hiding from it. Michael was already in bed, reading. She climbed in beside him, and he put down his book to hold her. This had become their ritual. No words necessary, just presence. Just the reassurance of bodies that had weathered storms and emerged still capable of tenderness. "I love you," she said into the darkness. "I love you too." The sleep came easier these days. Not perfectly, she still woke sometimes, heart racing, convinced she felt movement beneath her skin. But she'd learned to breathe through it, to remind herself of reality, to let Michael's kiss on steady breathing beside her anchor her back to safety. Tonight, she slept deeply, and if she dreamed, she didn't remember. That too was progress. Morning arrived with September sunlight streaming through windows Sarah had finally opened. The curtains no longer stayed drawn all day. Light was allowed in again. She woke naturally, stretched, felt the engagement ring on her finger, and smiled. 3 months, 1 week, and 4 days since extraction, but who was counting any more? Time was starting to feel less like a measurement of distance from trauma and more like simple forward motion. She was living again, not just surviving. The bathroom mirror reflected someone she was learning to recognize. Not the girl from before, not the broken woman from the worst days, someone in between, someone becoming. She touched the scar one last time. "Thank you," she whispered to her reflection, to her body, to the fierce resilience that had carried her through. "Thank you for fighting." Then she went to make coffee, to start another day, to continue the endless work of healing. Because that's what survivors do. They wake up, they keep going. They transform their pain into purpose and their scars into stories worth telling. And somewhere, in doctors' offices and support groups and late-night Google searches, other people were just beginning this journey. Sarah's story was waiting for them. A map through darkness. Proof that survival was possible. Evidence that healing, though slow and nonlinear and frustratingly incomplete, was real. The larva that had lived in her face for 6 weeks was long dead now, preserved in formaldehyde in some CDC laboratory. But Sarah Mitchell was very much alive, scarred but standing, changed but choosing joy, healing one day at a time. And that, she'd learned, was enough. Sometimes life invades us in ways we never see coming. A small thing we dismiss that grows into something that changes everything. Have you ever ignored a warning sign from your body that you wish you'd listened to sooner? What finally made you seek help? And how did that choice change your path forward? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today.